I want to meet you where you're at and give you some really, really amazing content and actionable items that are going to ultimately help you convert more. So I want to share this context with you real quick so that you guys can really grasp what I'm trying to say and or make sure that I'm communicating effectively with you. Again, so many coaches, so many agents, everybody talks about lead generate, lead generate, lead generate, lead generate, lead generate. And I'm with them on it. It's all about lead generation. But a lot of times, if we generate the lead and we don't convert the lead, it's all for naught. And so the thing I'm going to challenge everybody to do is a lead is somebody that is looking to transact anytime between now and the next 18 months or even 24 months, depending on the conversion cycles that you're running with your campaigns, et cetera, that is looking to potentially buy, sell, or invest in real estate. And you have verified name, telephone number, and an email address, or just one of those particular items. Okay, so that's a pretty wide open lead generation things. And today's technology, there's so many things that are going to aggregate that information for us. It's going to generate that leads information for us. So the true practitioner piece is going to come in the actual conversion. How do I get them to know me, like me, trust me? How do I get them to think of me and think of real estate, or think of real estate and think of me, right? So these are the things that I want to start imploring our thought processes to do, because at the end of the day, this is a for-profit business. This is about cash and checks. This is about providing for your family. This is about building your business. This is about you scaling up the leverage automation systems and processes so that your business starts to generate income when you're not the one always behind the wheel driving the car. Right? This is your ability to start communicating your value proposition so you become the lead magnet. So you become the source for people to solve the problem in delivering the value proposition that you are bringing. All right. So before we get into the top of this, as a quick reminder, Kai did put in her social media there. Go do yourself a favor before we conclude today. Make sure you click on that. Register for that. Like I said, it's worth its weight. It's definitely a game changer for you guys to be able to leverage up that and start creating more awareness, more interest, which is going to be the top of the funnel. We're going to be or one of the pieces of the top of the funnel that we're going to talk about here in just a moment. Okay, so what I want to do real quick is there is a study by 1000 Watt that's done that you've heard us reference many, many times. And now this, even though this study is going to, based on our current market, might be out of date a little bit, I'm actually going to challenge that it's going to be more important now than it was when the market was scalding hot. Your offer, your value proposition is going to be more in demand because of the uncertainty of the market. And that's exactly what this data kind of goes into and says. And so this was a rather, somewhat extensive study. It was polled on 600 homeowners, so not a huge use case scenario, but it was all over across the United States. So they sampled many markets. It was done by male and female as far as the equality of that goes in the polling, right? But there's several things in here that I want us to be talking about, and why it's so important for us to communicate our message, for us to communicate the value proposition and the uniqueness of what we bring to the marketplace at Zoodealio before we get, very focused on certain things. Again, you're going to hear me talk constantly right now about our time being our most precious resource. Number one, that exists in all time. However, when we have the times that we're in right now where people are standing on the sidelines, they're not jumping in the game, there's not 15 offers on every single house, it's really, really paramount for us to be super effective with our time. And that's what I want to get at here, right? So these are things that you guys are still going to be able to supply in today's time. And here's the part I want everybody to start imploring us to be thinking about. How many times have you been buying something and it's like the way that the consumer psychology works is that, hey, we're going to go for, the highest price, but then all of a sudden when we don't achieve the goal, we start adjusting our expectations very, very quickly. And so this is where I want us to start thinking about sources like how we're going to generate new business. What is it that we're going to expand based on the goals, right? So these last couple of weeks, we've been talking so much about business plans. goals, implementation of those. Well, now it's time to get real, tactical on how we're going to, increase, my transaction count by a deal a quarter, a deal a month, a deal a week, right? So it's being able to walk back those particular strategies in the lead sources. What are the contacts? What is the success of those contacts? How many leads do I need to have? How many conversations do I need to have before an appointment, right? And again, I gave you all those strategies before where it was 35 contacts to set yourself 4 appointments, and then it was 4 appointments to get one person in, client, right? So, and that's some, again, I do believe that you guys would be able to beat that on some, aspects, especially with the value proposition that you bring. But that was data that was furbished by the National Association of Realtors, and I think it's a pretty good benchmark and a great basis for us to operate off of. Back to this survey here, and look at this. This is because of the home selling process, where almost 40% of the people are finding it stressful. Well, this is only going to be amplified right now. Let's think about this. Let's put it, those of us that have sold a home, bought a home before, in an uncertain time, things are going to get more stressful. And when I'm going to list my house and I know it's not going to necessarily be a revolving door, what if I have a timeline? What if, my financial circumstances aren't the best and I need to sell my house to move on? Or what if there is, non-comfortable things at home and I need to sell, right? There's just so many reasons of why there's people having their stress, and this is going to be amplified because the timetable that it's going to potentially take to sell their home. And so this is where I want you guys to really start thinking about how you're going to solve this problem in the marketplace. And if you do, right, people will never hesitate to come to you and use your services because they know that you are the trusted source and how you're going to solve their problem for that. Before we start talking about top of funnel and lead sources and whatnot, let's actually also look at the current state of our market. Even though demand is down and inventory has increased, a lot of markets were still in a bit of an inventory crisis. And that is, it's really going to become not only a price contest, it's going to become a beauty contest. And so these are some things that you're going to have access to within Zoodealio that you're going to be able to bring to your clients and how you can solve those problems and ultimately reap the benefits of another closed transaction. Looking at solving this inventory crisis and, ultimately beginning with the end in mind, right? There are lead sources that potentially have to sell, okay? So divorce circumstances, some of them have to sell. Probate, some of them have to sell. Foreclosure, list pendants, notice of default, depending on where you're at in the country, some of them have to sell, okay? So these are sources of where we want to start looking at how can I generate new business? Who are people that are going to be likely candidates that they need to control the timeline? Who are likely candidates that can reap the benefits from the services that only you can provide? Even if their, brother, mother, or somebody that they know close to them is an agent, they're more likely to use your services because of the way that you can solve the problem and ultimately control the timelines and still get them as much money in their pocket as possible, right? So these are the strategies, these are the lead sources that I want you guys to start thinking about and how we can connect with this. So by the way, at the end of this, make sure we stay tuned to the end because I'm going to be giving you guys some scripts on how to talk to all of these and what are the sources on how we can, kind of communicate that. And that's what we're going to be hitting on with this funnel in a second. Because, in order to build a business plan, we obviously need to first quantify, identify what are my lead sources that I'm going to be hitting. And then we start building the systems, processes, sales system around it. Okay. Kind of going through it. People that also might want to sell is evictions, right? These are big ones. This is a big one where especially I'm going to give you guys a bit more of a pro tip on this one. Evictions on houses that the landlords own them 5 years or more. They could be looking to sell inside of that circumstance. Obviously when we go, the further we go down, the better it's going to be, just because now you're start looking at the properties fully depreciated per that landlord. And this is where a use case scenario of a cash plus is potentially going to work fantastic for them. Here's how, here's why. Number one, if they've been leasing the house out for 7 years or 5 years inside that circumstance, there's a solid chance that they done minimal updating, right? Maybe they've done some painting or, on the unit turnover, they maybe went and cleaned up certain things, fixed dings in the wall, what have you. But the house isn't going to necessarily have been maximized for value in most cases. And so this is where the cash plus of you being able to say, hey, I see that this, you've owned this house for a certain amount of time and, that it's under eviction. I have a cash offer that will give you the certainty and convenience of your cash up front. But what I do is I'm able to come in and, ultimately rehab your house to top condition to ensure that we're going to get you top value for the property, right? And so then we're talking about where we can go in and change the flooring, maybe improve the countertops, maybe improve the property in certain capacities to where that property is now going to almost be like we're going to flip their own house for them and they're going to reap the benefits of it, right? So these are some really cool strategies where I want you guys to start kind of focusing on these niches and how we're ultimately going to really grow our business. And that's the whole point. And like the being very specific about the repetition that we're going to take in the lead sources. And then the other thing that you're going to see inside of this is how linear all of these work together. The same thing for expireds, canceleds, and the older expireds, the older canceleds. And so this is where I know I've been talking about this the last several weeks is, having that opportunity where we're going to identify a house that left the market unsold, 6 months to 24 months ago. And now we're just simply approaching them and asking them if they would be interested in getting a cash offer that allows them to sell anytime between now and the next 120 days, right? So again, I'm going to give you guys the script on that here in just a moment, but I want to get through all of these sources. Okay, so then looking at prospecting smart for buyers, I have a really good one for you guys on that today. And then also one of my favorite data points is 61% of all people that are selling a house are also going to buy a house. So you're almost getting 1.5 transactions if you do it right from everybody that's going to sell their house, right? That's why going back to the leverage game, listings are so important. We have to have a certain amount of leads and we have a certain amount of listings because that's what leads to the leverage of our business. And those listings leveraging not only the listing to acquire other buyers, but also taking that homeowner and helping them find their next house. If they're moving out of state, referring them and getting a referral fee, right? So it's just a real domino effect when we get really on purpose about building an inventory full business, right? I want to be very clear about that. It's list to live, and it is 100% all about building an inventory full business so that your business will constantly work even when you're at your kid's soccer game, right? Okay. Let's go back to this, or okay. So let's get into looking at this funnel here. I want to first talk about some of the social media things as we went back into this. It's really, really important for this. Okay, so you have what is the top of the funnel? Okay, so there's many different ways to operate inside the top of the funnel. This can be everything from paid leads, right? So let's explore this real quick. What is some paid lead sources? This can absolutely be even as simple as like RedX. Okay, so RedX now a FSBO, or maybe that's where you're getting your data from for canceleds or expireds, probates, right? These are sources often that to where you be able to have that, or Landboy, right? That's one of the ones that I used to use a lot was Landvoice or Vulcan 7. These are systems that have dialing systems on it. They have a bit of a CRM-esque piece to it, but they'll also pump the leads inside there for you so that it's more of a hub and a way for you to do that. Okay, now let's look at some of these other paid sources because I think that that's important. Like Fire, for example, I know those have done really well with the Zoodealio cash offer system, or even like a value.com or even Zillow, right? Zillow's still a multi-billion-dollar company off of selling leads to real estate agents, right? They control they have 300 million visitors every single month, and they crush it as far as that goes. Okay. So top of the funnel, where we're at, this is where we want to create. So what does that mean? In that from where we want to take services, right? This also could be your sphere of influence. This could be let's put that in. So other stuff would be SOI, right? This could be mailers. This could be farming, right? Which would be mailers, but I mean more of like strategy I was talking about last week, where we're farming a higher turnover rate and we're sending our message in there, right? So all these things want to get inside here, and this is where these are going to come in here, right? So let's talk about some of the social media piece about it, right, as well. So the social media is a huge aspect. And the reason why is it allows us to leverage, okay? The beauty of all of this is it's not always just such a boring phone call. It's not a boring static letter, right? These are things that move, that they engage with. Not only that, we're tracking the metrics. You can do a post, see what has the most likes, see what has the most views, especially on my business page. Then those of you that are running boosts or running ads, retargeting, geofence, right? Those are metrics that are all going to be telling us at the top of this funnel what is working, what has the most engagement, so that I know, hey, this worked, do more of this. And this is how I'm going to build that, build that piece. This is where everything goes into the top, right? And then we'll get into these pieces here in a moment, but then, that's like where we're going to do they are going to have discovery on your services. You're going to build up features and benefits before we go on to calls to action and ultimately, doing business. Okay. So the pieces on this, right? This is where I want to look at. This is not just a one-touch scenario. Not like I don't know what the data is inside of this circumstance, but I'm going to challenge that probably 95% of the leads that you have, the people that you've done, they are going to live right inside this section. Okay, 95% plus of the leads that you're going to work with are going to live here, right? And that's the whole point, is that even after they go through the cycle, I want them to just kind of come back to the top there so that you're constantly able to develop some repeat and referral business, right? You want people to repeat. You also want these people to refer you because of the services, because of everything that you have, right? And that's where, how do we build this awareness and interest? Okay. So this concept, I think, is okay. Awareness, interest. All right. Well, let me use social media posts, right? That's where we're going to create awareness, interest. Now, the goal is inside of this, how we get more and more sophisticated. And one of the things that we're going to be talking about, especially this next quarter, as I unveil more of our guaranteed, our cash offer day sales system, success guarantee, is going to take all of these pieces, right, and ultimately them all working together, right? Getting them to work in unison so that they build and flow together, because it's never, again, I know those of you that are on here probably have heard me say this many times, it's never one thing, it's all things, right? And being able to do that. And so that's the point of how we're building this awareness and interest, top of the funnel game here. And this is where all of these pieces that we want to be communicating to our database. And here's what I love about this, guys, is once we have these pieces built, guess what? We have one job after that, right? And that one job, right, this top of funnel of everything that we have here, which is going to be 95% plus of our contacts, our database that we have, paid sources that we have that are all going to be building inside of this. We want to take the time to run email campaigns, have direct mail sources, text messages, calls, and advertisements that are all going to be running on them, right? One thing I do want to add two things on this ads, because this is where things get a little bit more sophisticated and you have access to within Zoodealio. We're going to be talking about retargets, traffic driving, right? So, and retarget, right? So traffic driving and retargeting from an advertising standpoint, right? So when we're driving traffic, that is absolutely more of a lead generating circumstance, but then retargeting is a lead that came to your landing page or your site. You drove them from your postcard, they scanned, they landed on your site. Now your ads are being repurposed to them, right? And so that's where a lot of times, just as an FYI, your ad budget is going to go farther in a retarget circumstance when they visited your landing page organically, now that your pixel picks them up and is going to keep your ads in front of them. All right, but it's all about moving them through this cycle, right? So we want to ultimately take them from the top of the funnel, the awareness, the interest, to ultimately what they call the discovery. This is the discovery. We want to really showcase benefits of our value proposition, right? So this is the part where I want to be very clear that you guys are going to talk about all the time. It's your UVP or your USP it's over everything, because this is the guiding light for how we're going to grow our business, right? So people that even know us, like us, and trust us, when we have a service that they need to work with us on, that is my value proposition to them, right? And so that's where this UVP is what we're going to be focusing on showcasing. That's how we're going to generate the lead. That's how we're going to convert the lead. And it's a system that we have in place that we're going to move through as we go through all of this. All right, so let's talk about some ad sets, some communication cycles, those types of things on how we can ultimately move them through so that we can convert at a higher level. And number one, this is all about us taking action and initiate. This is where we need to live. So even though, right, this number right here is where they're living, this is where us as the pros are living. This is where we operate, right? This is where we convert. This is half of our time, right? Obviously, depending on where you're at in your business, there's times that you need to be very transactional, servicing your clients' needs, negotiating benzers, writing contracts, negotiating listings, right, et cetera. Those are all certain areas here. But from a sales standpoint, this is where we're really showcasing. This is our listing appointments. This is our prospecting time. This is my lead follow-up time, right? So this is where we want to be doing these types of things. But if we can still amplify this, right, this is where my retargeting is going to come into play, and we're going to be working more in a sophisticated fashion. This is where some of my text messages are going to have more of what we call a direct response marketing versus just an awareness interest marketing, right? And so these are all the sources inside of your Zoodealio account where I want to show you guys how you can access these, and ultimately, all is going to be one of the ones that are all going to be in this discovery, features, benefits, unveiling the features and benefits of what you guys have to offer inside of this circumstance. Okay. All right. So with that said, let me, I saw you had a couple of chats come in here real quick. Let me check those. Yes. Okay, cool. No, just everybody communicating. All right, so let's go. I want to share a script with you guys real quick. This script right here is one that I did a little while back for us. And it's one that I actually am going to challenge you to know it and own it, and then make it a bit of yours, right? So one of the ones that I know is having the most success, that I have a couple of team partners that are running with right now, is that with expireds and canceleds obviously on the climb, not only from a direct market right now is, I know Kayla's talked about that, mailing strategy of the listing that did expire and getting them to call them and say, on the listing, she's mailing them a copy of their listing with a sticky note on it that says, I know where your listing didn't sell, call me. Right. And then of course you're able to talk about the cash offer inside of that, right? That's kind of like a reverse mentality prospecting, where people are now reaching back out to you. I used to do one that worked like a charm for us, and we did it with a lot of notice of default / foreclosures. I waited until the actual foreclosure date on these particular ones was filed, which for me here in the local Phoenix Metro was 90 days. Once they were 90 days delinquent on their mortgage, they would actually be eligible to file for foreclosure. And so while everybody else is calling them, right, we would, with this system was called a monster, and what it was ultimately a UPS style-esque picture where we would drop a package and say, hey, sorry we missed you. Give me a call inside of that. And then the people would call us back inside of that. And then what it was we had a home advocate package that we were going to drop off to them. And what it was basically sharing with them the importances of being able to have a planned exit, save their house, not let their house go to foreclosure. And that could also come back, guys, right? Depending on the state of the market, depending on where you're at in the country, this is a strategy that, there's going to be a lot of people that potentially could lose their house, especially with some of the projections of values, right? I think that we're projected now to have like a 7% depreciation in the marketplace in 2023, right? So those of the homeowners that paid 10% over list price to get their house, well, that was on the median that we're talking about dropping to 7. So these are some people now that could be facing 10, 20 or more percent underwater, right? So now they are in if they need to sell, if they want to sell circumstance, their mortgage balance is going to be higher than what they could yield on the open market, right? So these are now going to potentially be ways that we would come in and look at a short sale strategy. Doesn't mean that they're going to be in a hardship where they can't make their mortgage payments, but these are still some strategies I want to share with you guys on how we could ultimately solve the problems in the marketplace and reap the benefits of it. All right, so let's look at this script. Okay, so what this is that I want everybody to see in here, the sizzle piece inside of this is one of the biggest things I want you guys to see, right? So being able to talk intelligently about the offerings or the programs, this is a system that we had built to where people are engaging with your stuff, right? So let's say that you had somebody that was engaging with your social post and email campaign that you ran, right? You could see that they opened it. You can see that they watched the video that you had inside of the campaigns that are built. And ultimately, what happens is you want to now make contact with that person. So now maybe they didn't necessarily request the cash offer, right? So this is more of a soft lead versus a scalding hot lead. But these are the types of things of how we're going to move people. And we need to build more of these types of practices in our efforts as agents today, because this is how we're going to create more transactions for ourselves, right? So I don't know if you guys are aware, the transaction account is now projected, for next year to fall somewhere in the low 4 millions. Right. And again, I know that sounds wild for a lot of people based on the markets, but what that is when we were at the height of 6 million homes to now almost 4 million as far as that goes, right? What is that? A 30% drop inside of that circumstance, 33% drop. That's a massive hit. And most of those trends, that's going to follow the same suit inside your market. That means that the amount of houses that sold in 2021 to where we're looking at in 2023, you're looking at a 30% less homes are going to sell. And so this is why I want to introduce you guys to these prospecting, these hustle tactics that are going to allow you to go out and crush it still, right? So with these strategies, you're going to be having a time that everybody else is laying off the throttle and, kind of reeling it in. You're going to be able to lay on the throttle, grow your business, and ultimately grow your market share, right? That's the whole point of why we want to implement these prospecting strategies into my business so that I can continually grow it. All right. With that said, let's look at this script, right? So I want to show everybody how this kind of works. Now I want to give you guys some pro tips real quick on prospecting, right? Depending on your level of experience, it's super important to know and own your script. My emphatic advice is this to you: know and own the script before you make it your own. What I mean by that is virtually remember it verbatim so that you can rattle off the paragraph in that particular time, right? And the other mistake that I see so many good agents make is they're going to try to remember the entire body of this script all at once, when sometimes it's just a section of what I'm going to say to this particular person, right? I personally am very scripted when I sell and say things. With that, it's because I say the same things over and over and over again. And the way that I have found to deliver my message doesn't mean that it's not genuine. It just means that it's very planned in the approach that I want to take my client or my prospect through inside of that circumstance. And that goes even to you guys, right? When I'm talking with you, the brokers, all these types of things, presentations about what is Zoodealio, how it works, those are all planned approaches. And it's being able to guide that person through that particular journey that you want to get them through. This is no different for you and your business. And so that's why I want you guys to look at scripts and learning certain things in bite sizes, right? So how am I going to talk about the cash plus when it comes up in my listing presentation? How am I going to talk about the sell now, move later when I'm making my prospecting calls? right? How am I going to make it so it's simplistic? How am I going to make it so it's simplistic to talk about getting multiple cash offers and convenient selling solutions all in one simple place that is simplistic and that's going to get that me in the door so that I can build a relationship with this particular prospect. Okay. Other pro tip on that is I want us to look at the language of the sale. So part of what happens a lot of times, and I even see this with my own sales team, is when they're learning a script, is they're going to just read it and that's pretty much it, right? They'll make their calls and it'll be like, hey, Elliot, no worries. I get that I called you unexpectedly, but our goal is to share with you that there's a new way to do things where you can sell instantly, right? That's not going to sell people. Part of what you're going to do is it has to be conversational. And so that's why we got to own it. So it's got to be more like this. Hey, Elliot, no worries. I get that I called you unexpectedly, but I just wanted to share my goal with you is that there's a new way to sell and do things where you can instantly sell your house and make sure that you get the most money for your house. So if now's not the right time, I can, shoot you a little bit of extra information on this. And, if it makes sense, then I can show you how it would all work for you and your family and control the timelines. Sound fair enough? Right? So it's being able to do those things and just move them through. And the part is that's great for us as practitioners. And if we're truly lead generating, we don't have to ambulance chase. That's the problem, I think, with some of us as pros or the mistakes I see some pros make is they'll have 15 leads and they work the dog out of those leads where they scare off half of them because they're just constantly, are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Versus there's no value. And it turns into an ambulance chasing or a paycheck chasing versus us focusing on the value. And when we're prospecting at scale that we should, right? I have 150 leads that I'm working with that are all necessarily, in the buy now to 3 months, right? So quantifying those particular things or sell now to 3 months. Those are the people that I'm focusing my effort on, and I'm constantly building value. I'm constantly showing them insights into the circumstances, or I'm really uncovering what it is that they're wanting to achieve so I can connect them to their goal. And then now is the time for them, right? So that's why I want us to be looking at being able to plant the seed, serve our clients, but then we constantly have a great communication. We constantly are having these funnels run so that even though I'm prospecting them and they tell me that they want a cash offer, I get them a cash offer. It doesn't work for them. Okay, well, if this cash offer doesn't work, we're just going to go ahead and stay in our house. I have no interest in putting my house on the market. Well, this is through that process. Now they constantly are in this discovery, this features and benefits, because there's going to be a trigger inside of here that's going to make them move, right? A lot of times more than in selling your house is actually going to be, where am I going, right? So when he or she, Mr. or Mrs. finds their dream home, they're going to move a heck of a lot faster, inside of that circumstance. So, all right. I want to show you guys this script, and then there's one other one too. I know we're super tight on time. I do want to talk about these programs real quick because this is super important, right? So the cash offers I talk about it today, right? It's very, very simple, right? It kind of gives you the certainty and convenience of cash now and ensures that you don't leave any money on the table. Right? Cash offer gives you certainty and convenience of the cash in your home now and ensures that you don't leave any money on the table. Wow, that sounds really interesting. Tell me more. How does that work? Right? So that's going to be that engagement inside of that where now we draw them, we get their interest, right? And we're able to capture that particular piece. And then, of course, the sell and say or the sell now, move later is the opportunity for you to get the available cash in your house now. And it allows you to lease back your house on a month-to-month basis up to a year. Pretty cool, right? So it's being able to deliver it and draw them in on that aspect. So these are the tools that I wanted just to share with you guys. I want this one other one as well because it's pretty cool stuff. One of my golden nuggets for you guys today is to actually go back and start looking through those leads. So as I was sharing with you before, a lot of times it's the conversion of the lead of how you're going to do an obnoxious amount of transactions every single year. It's, yes, let's generate some new leads and then, of course, reinvesting in my business. But it's also being able to make sure that we're maximizing the lead conversion. So one of the golden tips I wanted to give you guys the ability to do is this script right here, which this is designed for you working any of your past buyer leads, right? And the part I want everybody to be thinking about inside here is a lot of those buyer leads, half of those buyers are also going to have a house to sell. So that's why it's so important inside of this circumstance to, hey, when you identify the house that you're looking for, are you planning to get a mortgage or are you planning on paying cash? Oh, I'm going to be getting a mortgage. Oh, wow. Okay, cool. Hey, not sure if you're aware, but I would like to introduce you to the ability of you being able to buy your next house in cash. And then if I could introduce you to that, are you aware that you could actually save a bunch of money off the actual asking price? And here's one of the things that most, buyers right now don't know is that if we can negotiate concessions, we can actually buy down the interest rate. Because I'm sure that you've heard interest rates have probably gone up into like the mid sixes, right? Yeah. So if I could show you a strategy on how we could buy that rate all the way down into the fives for the life of the loan, effectively changing your purchasing power and getting you, ultimately a nicer house for less money, that would be pretty cool, right? Okay. So these are right. See, that's ultimately kind of what this does, and it's going to guide you through that particular process. And with that, we'll send you on your way and go out there and crush it because Christmas is coming soon. Squeeze out that. Let me challenge you to make that one more call, send that next email, send that next text, build that next marketing campaign, because the benefits of that are going to certainly come, and it's a domino effect, and you never know what repetition is going to lead to that next closed transaction for you.